Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Knowledge Hour, and this is your friend Ranveer Nanda. So guys, first of all, thanks a lot for liking my first video. It is your support which keeps me going. And I plan to make up these videos in lockdown because today there's so much of negativity which is going on around. So with the help of my videos, I plan to divert people's mind to something which is more productive. And that is what is the role of my channel, guys. And please do like, subscribe, and share because your support, guys, means a lot to me. And today's topic is going to be what can we learn from the most powerful nations. And I'm going to discuss about three nations which are very powerful and successful, which are going to be China, Japan, and Germany. So to start with China, how did China become so successful? We have to go back in past. So in the year 1979, Deng Xiaoping was the main leader who completely reshaped China's economy. So he basically, allowed all the foreign companies to settle in China. And at that point of time, nobody expected that because the reason was China was a very closed economy. But Deng Xiaoping, he had a very clear vision that this was very much required. And even foreign companies, they found China as a very lucrative option. The reason being the labor in China was very skilled and very cheap as well. And the other thing was the cost for setting a factory in China was very less. The rental cost I'm talking about in comparison to setting a factory in Europe. Then when these new factories were set up, of course, it gave jobs to a lot of local people. So people were also very happy. And then eventually, even the local manufacturers, so they got an opportunity to basically, study these foreign products and come up with, better products, with the passing time. So it gave them also opportunity to improvise their production and manufacturing as well. In fact, Deng Xiaoping, he motivated a lot of scientists, he motivated a lot of engineers to come up with a lot of innovations, a lot of research and development, which really helped China as a whole. So this basically laid the foundation of what you can see today's China's economy. And a lot of credit goes to Deng Xiaoping, I would say. Now, development of roads. See, development of road is very important because if the transportation cost is less, the overall product cost also would be lesser. So for example, the distance between Beijing and Shanghai, the two different cities of China, is around 1200 kilometers, but the time taken to travel this particular distance by road would take around just 12 and a half hours. And if you compare this with Indian cities like Mumbai to Delhi, the distance would be around 1400 kilometers, just 200 kilometers more. But the time taken to complete this distance by road would be around 23 hours approximately. So you can see the distance, and that's how they save so much of transportation cost. Then the last point of China being so successful is the initiative of One Belt, One Road. So basically, China plans to connect to Europe, and it wants to build the infrastructure between countries from China to Europe. So of course, Asia also comes in between. So it plans to develop infrastructure on three parameters, which is roadways, railways, and seaports between the various countries from China to Europe. And in fact, you see that today's countries are basically struggling to develop their own roads and infrastructure, and China is actually going to other countries and developing their roads and infrastructure. So that is the kind of vision China has. In fact, under this initiative, trains are already running from China to Germany, and it is basically meant to supply shipment of electronics. So it takes just 12 to 13 days. Otherwise, by a ship route, by a sea route, it would have taken 30 to 35 days. Guys, the next country which we are going to talk about is going to be Japan. And I will explain you this with the help of the slideshow. So let's proceed, guys. So guys, this is the map of Japan. I'll just point my cursor. This pink shaded portion is Japan, and it is located near Ring of Fire, which I'll explain you in the coming slide. So first, let us understand what are the challenges what Japan faces. The first point, the arable land of Japan is only 11.65%. Like arable land is the land which is meant for agriculture, and their major portion, the major region is mountainous. So even factories and industries can't be set up over there. Then no natural resources. I mean, there is hardly any natural resources. Like in Arabic countries, you would find oil wells over there. Then the last point, the biggest threat is situated near Ring of Fire. I'll explain you this with the help of the map. So this is where Ring of Fire, this is the Ring of Fire. Now again, I'm pointing my cursor. This is Philippine Sea Plate and this is Pacific Plate. So basically, tectonic plates are strong, a very solid rocky material, and they are beneath the ocean or continent. So what happens is that when these two different tectonic plates like Philippines plate and the Pacific plate, when they collide, they create a lot of vibrations and earthquake in the nearby region. As you can see, Japan is very close to these two different tectonic plates. That's the reason why it faces a lot of natural calamities like earthquakes. Now let us understand, even in spite of the challenges, why is Japan so successful? So basically, the first point you can see, there is a concept of zero defects, and that's the reason why their products are globally accepted, because they don't make products just for profit. Then the second point, Japan was a country which initiated which invented the just-in-time method, which implies that there should be proper sync between the supply and demand and avoid oversupply and shortage of goods. In fact, they have got computerized mechanism to ensure that it is properly done. Then Kaizen. Now Kaizen means continuous improvement. See, basically that's the reason why Japanese goods are one of the best products in the world. Then third is self-reliance. As I explained to you, they don't have that much of natural resources. So their local manufacturers, they come up with the best products and they are not dependent on any other nation. Then the last point, the average workers I have mentioned here. You can see the difference between USA workers and Japan. In fact, they have got a concept of bunker bed. So if an employee is tired, he can actually rest in the bunker bed in the office and get back to work. That is the kind of dedication towards work the Japanese people have got. But yes, guys, they are also paid for the extra working hours. Let's not forget that. This is the map of Germany. I mean, you can see Germany. So let us understand, why is Germany so successful? As the first point suggests, it is the largest economy in the entire Europe. So what makes it the largest economy? So inland navigation is one big reason. They have got a lot of rivers like Rhine, Danube, Main River. So they do a lot of trading, and for that they have their infrastructure of the seaport, which is very well developed. And inland navigation is the cheapest means of transportation. So Germany completely utilizes this. Then well-trained students. Now in Germany, it is mandatory for the student, irrespective of any course he's pursuing, to work under a professional. Like if he wants to become an engineer, he has to work under an engineer. And so when he passes out the college or studies, he actually becomes a skilled laborer. So the nation benefits from this. Now very important, what can India learn? So again, the first point, development of inland navigation and seaports. Now the second point, you can see execution of Sagarmala project. Now this is one of the biggest projects because it plans to develop the seaports in our entire 9 states. So here it's mentioned on this fourth point. So it is going to connect these 9 states from Gujarat to West Bengal, which lie near the coastal region. I'll show you with the help of the map. So this is the map of India, and these 9 states, when I'm pointing my cursor, they lie in near this region, near Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. So a lot of trading is done through these seaports, and that is the reason why development of these ports and also connectivity among these different states is very important, and that is the purpose of Sagarmala project. Now as you can see, the last point, they are major contributors, these 9 states, to the GDP. So basically, of course, this project will also result to a lot of employment opportunities. See, in India today, there are a lot of industrialists which are growing and earning a lot of profits. But what about the common people? So such projects will lead to employment. It is estimated that 20 million new jobs in the form of ship mechanics, engineers, and skilled labor will be created because of Sagarmala project. Then guys, the last point, development of Chabar port. This I'll have to explain you with the help of map, and this is also very crucial. So this is the map of Chabahar Port. Yeah, this is where India is located when I'm pointing my cursor, and this is Chabahar Port. So India plans to develop this Chabahar Port when I'm pointing my cursor. So what will happen is that through the development of this port, we'll be able to connect to Zahedan of Iran through railways or roadways, and then to Afghanistan, and then to different parts of Central Asia. Because now the countries have to depend on Gwadar Port of Pakistan for trading between India and Afghanistan and Iran. So now we won't have to depend on Gwadar Port, because we will have developed this Chabahar Port of Iran. But guys, unfortunately, there's a lot of problems which are happening in the progress of this particular project. I recommend you to read current affairs topics on Chabahar Port to understand the progress which is made. Now then, development of roads. Now, as I explained, to give an example of China. So see, when the roads are well developed, it will take lesser time for transportation, so the transportation cost will be reduced. Then again, the development of remote areas. Now see, I mean, for example, if you see Faridabad, it is about 50 kilometers from Delhi, but people prefer to stay in Delhi because if they have jobs in Delhi, it would take a lot of time for them to travel from Faridabad to Delhi. But if the remote areas are very well connected to the mainstream cities, to roadways, then people will start staying to different remote areas, and also lead to decongestion of crowded areas, as these cities like Mumbai and Delhi, they are so overpopulated, so they'll start getting decongested and start shifting to remote areas. So this is something which is very important. Now then again, very important point, Bharatmala Road Project. So basically, Bharatmala Road Project plans to connect all the cities of the country, even the remote areas, through extensive road network, and lot of road infrastructure will be well developed. So as I again and again explained you that transportation costs will be reduced because of transportation time, and this is the aim of Bharatmala project, and it is estimated to create 2.2 crore permanent jobs. Then the last point, we see synergy has to be there between state and central government. See, now all the political parties should work like in hand. They should have a common vision, unlike opposing each other just for the sake of it. That is which is very required, like the way Japanese and Germany they work. Guys, the last point, skilled labor. Now it's very important that we have proper workshops. So again, when these workshops are developed, like government aided skilled labor programs as well, then people will realize their new skills, and they'll harness their skills, and as a result the country will get a lot of skilled labor. And then last point, government support. Now it is very required. Like in China, if any company wants to export its product, so they have very less taxes. So even government of India shall follow the same things. They should encourage new entrepreneurs to. So guys, finally we come to the conclusion. So to summarize, I can say that we can learn from the examples of these powerful nations, what all steps they had taken, how they became so successful. Even India can implement the same things. And I feel that we have the human resources. It is just that we need to make it a skilled labor. Again, as a nation, we all shall have a common vision, a common goal to develop and build ourselves in the next 8 to 10 years. And guys, I would say the future then will be ours. I hope this session was valuable to you, was informative to you, because that is what is the motive of my channel Knowledge Hour, to bring to you a lot of knowledge, guys. And please don't forget to like, subscribe and share my video, because your support means a lot to me, guys. And always keep smiling. God bless.